Hi, guys. It's me, Miss Ledber. And we've been working our way through the Renaissance for the last couple of weeks. And we just took our Renaissance test, and now we're going to transition into another section of the Renaissance called the Reformation. Now, we don't have a separate section in our notebook for the Reformation, but that's okay. We're just going to add it to the Renaissance, and we should be good to go. If you would, though, I would like you to take some time to open up your notebook, and I don't want you to go to the Reformation or the Renaissance section. I want you to go to the medieval church section. So take a moment with me to open the medieval church section. And if you need a moment to find that, go ahead and pause the video and get your notebook open so that we can review some of the things that we've talked about in the past when it comes to the church. Okay, so I believe that at this point, everybody should have their medieval church notes open. Okay, so we're just going to kind of go through here a little bit and see if we have anything, if we can be reminded of anything that we talked about when we were talking about the medieval church. So, one of the things that we had been discussing earlier in the year was the fact that the church was in control of all things that were happening during this time period. It was one universal church. It was called the Catholic Church. They made all of the decisions for you. And if you were living in Europe during the Middle Ages, you were a Catholic. There wasn't another choice. Everything fell around Catholicism. So the Catholic Church did, and we even wrote an essay about this, or talked about it. We talked about the fact that the Catholic Church did great good, but they also did some things that weren't as good. And one of those things was the Inquisition, where we had these church run courts that were responsible for rooting out heresy. And if you recall, heresy is the idea that people are believing false teachings of the church or of God, and they're spreading that information among their friends. And if you have sin in your life, according to the evil early church, you couldn't get into heaven. So those people who are running the church, the pope, the bishop, the archbishop, the priest, the monks, these men felt that it was their responsibility to make sure that you lived as clean and pure a life as you possibly could, so that when you died, you would get into heaven. So the church did set up things like hospitals and schools. They preserved writing and written work. But at the same time, they were really harsh when it came to sin because they knew the effects of sin. So you would be asked to pay a penance if you committed sins. And we talked about the fact that there were different things that you could do to protect yourself from sin. You could go to confession. You could talk to Mary. You could go to the saints. You could um, do the sign of the cross. You could use holy water, relics. They would go on religious journeys. They did a lot of things to kind of insulate or protect themselves from what was going on with sin at the time. Okay, so recalling all of that, we're going to actually do an activity today that's called Jesus versus the Pope, and we're going to look at some primary source um, pictures, uh, drawings that were done to help us illustrate what was really happening with the church. They've gone through a little rough patch here. And so this idea of the Inquisition has really given them a bad name. So we need to kind of look at some of the things that they have done and is it real? Do they represent themselves well or not? Okay. So if you go back, please, to Canvas, you will notice that on Friday, if you're in Mr. Herman's class, in Mr. Herman's Canvas page, it'll say Friday. So we're going to go to Friday and we're going to click on this Pope versus Jesus. It's a cami, so I've already pulled that up for us here in front of us. So What I would like you to do, of course, I'm going to kind of get myself out of the way here. Like we do always, we're going to go in and put in a text box and write our name. Okay. Goodness gracious. Let's see if I can write my own name. Okay. So we've written our name. We'll go ahead and circle our teacher of record. Um, so Miss Letterberg is who I am. So, oops, I don't need that extra circle. Eraser. There we go. Okay, now let's try this again. There we go. Okay, so let's look at the directions and see what we can come up with here. It says, explain what is happening in these cartoons and how together their message is pointing out the hypocrisy of the Pope and the Roman Catholic Church. Now, if you don't know what hypocrisy is, that might be a new word to you. So we would, of course, go and look it up because we just don't know what it means. Oh my goodness, helps if I can spell it correctly. HYPO. Okay. HYPO. Okay, here, hypocrisy. Okay, so it says it's the practice of claiming to have moral standards or beliefs to which one's own belief does not perform, or pretense. So it would be someone who says one thing and does something else. This is generally what we would call a hypocrite, and you probably have used these words before, um, maybe even when you're describing people like your parents. So a hypocrite is someone who does one thing but says something else. So let's look at these two cartoons and see if we can come up with what's going on here. So we're going to actively read the cartoons. In this picture, we can see that this is Jesus, because I've labeled him. These are his disciples. And then in this picture, we see this is the Pope here, and these would be his followers. Now, this is actually a very famous story here with Jesus. So I'm going to actually put in a text box so that I can jot some ideas down. So I know, this is something that I know, that Jesus washed the feet of the disciples before the Last Supper. Okay, so I know that that's something that happened. Um, I know that from the Bible. That's knowledge that I already knew. That would be a connection that I could make. Okay, so let's keep looking at this here. So we have Jesus. He's clearly washing the feet. But what kind of expression do people have here? What do we see the disciples are doing? So let's look at their expression a little bit. They kind of seem to be, I don't know, like look at this guy. He doesn't seem to be real happy. Um, I guess you could say that they kind of look surprised. Why do you think, um, why do you think that the disciples would be surprised? What do you think that they would think here? Well, we know that Jesus has told his disciples that he is the Son of God. So, if he is claiming to be the Son of God, would he, or would it be something that he would do to wash other people's feet? So maybe he's not surprised. Maybe they're confused. Um, Let me write that down. Or confused. Like they don't seem to kind of know what's going on. Why would Jesus, the Son of God, be washing their feet? Um, why Jesus be washing their feet? Okay, so you can see that I have some questions here, like we would normally do if we were actively reading. I have some prior knowledge that I'm accessing here. So, all kinds of things that we do when we normally actively read, we're going to do that. We're going to continue to do that here. So, why would Jesus be washing the feet of the disciples? What kind of guess could we make? Okay, if someone in authority uh, kneeled down in front of you and washed your feet, what statement would they be making to you? I'm going to write here. Um, Jesus was trying to get his disciples to understand that they were important to him, maybe, or he was not better than them. Okay, he's literally bowing down at their feet and washing their dirty, gross feet, trying to make a point that he is not better than them. Okay, so in contrast, let's give ourselves another text box here. In contrast, what's going on over here with the Pope? Okay, so here is the Pope. Okay, so we're going to say Pope is sitting on a, looks like a throne, and is surrounded by other church men and maybe a king. I mean, look at this guy here. He clearly kind of looks like a king. So he's got the Pope here, and we have other church guys around here. And here's the king. And what is the king doing? It seems that the king is kissing the feet of the Pope. Now, what statement does that make? Like, if you said to someone, you have to kiss my feet, what are you really saying? I think that the Pope is trying to make a point here. The point that, excuse me, that the Pope is making is that he is better than the other people in the picture. Okay? They have to bow down to the Pope. Okay? So we have this concept here where we have Jesus on one side, he's getting his feet, or he's washing the feet of his disciples. And on the other side, we have the Pope, and he's getting his feet kissed by this king here. So if we go back up to our question, it says, explain what's happening in these cartoons, which we did, and how together their message is pointing out the hypocrisy of the church. So, another text box here. Okay, this is about hypocrisy. Oh my goodness, I cannot spell this word today. Hypo. Hypocrisy. Okay, hypocrisy and the church. So, what could we write down here in this text box about hypocrisy in the church? Should the Pope be better or be pretending that he's better than the people when he is supposed to represent Jesus? Okay, so take a minute in this box here, or in a box on your paper, go ahead and write down some thoughts about why the church is being hypocritical. Why are they saying one thing and doing something else? I'll write that down up here, okay, so that we know. Okay, hypocrisy means saying one thing and doing another. Okay. Okay. So, did you get some things written down? If you didn't, go ahead and pause the video and write some things in your box about how the church is being a hypocrite. I would say I need a couple of things, two or three things, two or three sentences about how this is working. Okay? So if you need to, go ahead and pause what's going on. And we're going to then go on to the next section. Okay? So the next section is the following. We now have two different pictures. Still the same question, how is the church being hypocritical? But two different pictures. And I've given you a little summary down here of what is really happening in each picture. So in this picture, the Pope is being crowned, and in this picture, the Jesus is being crowned. Okay? And we've talked about Jesus being crowned before his crucifixion. So if you have to go back to your Christianity notes to figure that out, go ahead and do that. You're going to do exactly what I just did. You're going to come up with two text boxes, talk a little bit about the first picture, talk a little bit about the second picture, and then hypocrisy in the church is going to be what you come up with. That's going to be your final part. You need to do this one on your own, okay? And then when you're finished, make sure you submit to your teacher so that we can get those graded. If you have any questions or concerns, make sure you let me know so that we can get this cleared up for you. Have a great evening, or if this is evening, have a great morning, and we'll see you soon.